welcome back. As you've seen them, Mr. Festus Okoye joins us next as we discuss election matters. Good morning and thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, good morning.
Well, first of all, let's start off with what you had referred to last week about this high-level meeting that INEC was prepared to have with NNPC. Now, we know the country is currently grappling with fuel shortage, currency, different challenges. Are these going to affect the elections, or has that meeting held, or what's going to happen? What's the consideration at the moment?
Well, the meeting we hold today,
okay.
The chairman of the commission, we hold a high-level meeting with the leadership of the National Union of Road Transport Workers from all over the Federation today. Then thereafter, they will go into this meeting with the leadership of the NNPC. Now, the point here is that for the 2023 general election, we are going to deploy over 1.2 million ad hoc staff. And these ad hoc staff have to be moved to the 176,846 polling units across the Federation. And we have to also engage in reverse logistics to move them back to the 8,809 registration areas for purposes of collation of results, and also move them to the 774 local government areas of the Federation. So what that means is that we are going to need vehicles, and we are going to hire these vehicles from the National Union of Road Transport Workers. We are going to also consult with the National Association of Road Transport Owners and also with the various marine unions. And we need fuel to move for these vehicles to function. So what part of the things we are looking at is to have dedicated filling stations on election day where some of these transporters can go in, buy fuel, and then be in a position to perform the electoral functions that we've assigned to them.
1.2 million ad hoc staff.
Yes.
That is a lot of people. What precisely are what are the different types of jobs available for that? And for people who are looking to be, I don't know if you already hired them, because there's some people who will be wondering, I'd like to be a member of INEC's ad hoc staff. How do I get involved?
No, it's not everybody that is qualified to act as an ad hoc staff of the commission. There are different levels of election duty staff that we recruit. For the purposes of polling unit on election day, as I pointed out, we have 176,846 polling units. We are going to have 4 ad hoc staff per polling unit. We are going to have the presiding officer on election day and also 3 assistant presiding officers who are going to perform different functions on election day. Then we are also going to have what those we call supervisory presiding officers. These are the ones who are going to supervise the various registration areas, take control of election materials, distribute these election materials to the various ad hoc staff. And then we're also going to have collation officers in the 8,809 registration areas. And we're also going to have collation officers in the 774 local government areas of the Federation. And then we are now going to have both collation and returning officers for different levels of election. And then we are going to also have election duty security personnel in all the polling units. So when you put all of them together, they come to over 1.2 million.
The security personnel are from within, amongst the ad hoc staff, or they are from the security agencies?
They are part of the various security agencies. The Nigerian police is the lead agency in terms of election security, but because of the paucity of personnel, they also draw from the Nigerian customs, draw from immigration, draw from other security agencies to beef up their number, especially for the purposes of giving some level of protection to the various polling units.
You count them among the 1.2 million ad hoc staff?
Yes.
Okay, so have you hired the ad hoc staff already? Are they already being trained, or where precisely are we with them?
The bulk of our presiding officers are drawn from the pool of corps members. Serving corps members given priority, and then corps members that have just finished their service are also recruited. Then for assistant presiding officer 1, 2, and 3, we draw them from students of federal tertiary institutions in their penultimate year. So these are the ones who form the bulk of our ad hoc staff. Now, for the purposes of supervisory presiding officers, we draw them from the pool of staff from federal agencies, commissions, and parastatals. and we screen them and screen them properly. So the training of these ad hoc staff will begin on the 9th of February.
You know, we had questions and concerns about ad hoc staffs because many ask, look, in the event that because several cases come through time and again, and ad hoc staffs always have huge mention in a lot of these scenarios, is there any consideration, or what is it, if there is, that INEC thinks in terms of perhaps holding them a lot more accountable to their jobs, as it were?
Well, the Electoral Act 2022 has made it very clear that if you elect to serve as an ad hoc staff, because serving as an ad hoc staff is a voluntary thing, if you elect to serve as an ad hoc staff, you must subscribe to oath of neutrality and also oath of allegiance. Not only that, there are very stiff penalties prescribed in the Electoral Act for electoral malfeasance. So we try to train the ad hoc staff and train them well. In fact, we are beginning on the 9th because we want to give them a longer training and more robust training, especially in terms of election technologies and also their responsibilities on election day. And we are going to also hold them responsible for whatever goes wrong at the level of the polling unit. And so we want to make it very clear to them so that any of them that does not have both the mental, psychological, and emotional stability to withstand the heat in terms of the penalties prescribed for electoral offenses, will be advised to pull out from performing such a function.
So in terms of holding them accountable, is there a window? Because when they finish their job for that election and they go,
yes,
and litigation comes through much later, are they usually, do they come back? Will they still be liable after the election, or what?
Definitely they will still be liable because these are core members who are still in, some of them are still in camp. So we liaise with the leadership of the NYSC in terms of harvesting them for purposes of electoral duty. Now, they also apply through our portal to serve as ad hoc staff. Not only that, we also issue them with letters of engagement. There's a contract between them and the commission specifying very clearly their responsibilities, their entitlements, and also the commission's responsibilities towards them. And this is made clear to them that they will be required to come and account for their actions both during and after the election. So there's no hiding place for any ad hoc staff that misbehaves.
Okay, now we know that you have extended the collection of PVCs.
Yes.
There were complaints about that. So yes, now that that has happened, perhaps, we don't know, is it too early to get a feel in terms of what kind of successes are you recording concerning the reason why that extension happened in the first place?
Well, we have recorded huge successes. In so many of the states, the collection of PVC is almost completed. We had the challenges in a few states, states like Lagos, Oyo, Osun, Ebonyi, and Imo. In some of these states, our offices were burnt, and we had to reprint some of the permanent voters' cards that were burnt. In some of the places also, we created a portal through which our electoral officers and resident electoral commissioners impute the cards we omitted to print. For instance, immediately after the extension, we trucked in over 72,000 cards to Oyo State. We sent in around 65 to Osun State, around 35,000 to Ebonyi, and around 18,000 to Imo. We have been getting daily and weekly reports on progress of collection, and we are really, really excited at the level of enthusiasm that the Nigerian people have shown in terms of the collection of these PVCs.
How about Lagos?
Lagos is doing well at this particular moment, and you know Lagos and Kano have a huge population in terms of the number of registered voters. There are 2 or 3 local governments that had issues, and the resident electoral commissioner has been directed to pay special attention to those local governments, and also the supervising national commissioner will be in Lagos any moment from now to lead the charge in relation to those I think three local governments or so where we have challenges, and also to find out why we are having challenges in those local governments. And so we are paying special attention to Lagos.
Because I know that the Big Tent, led by Professor Patutomi, I don't know if you heard some of their suggestions in terms of how these PVCs, how they think it can be distributed. So I'm not sure if we have that on cue so that we could listen to it and let Mr. Okoye respond to what they say in the meeting they had yesterday about distribution of the permanent voter cards. Okay, we understand it's on cue.
We don't, as an electoral management body, distribute permanent voters' cards. We make permanent voters' cards available for collection by those who registered, and that is the law. If you look at the law, the Electoral Act 2022, the proprietary right in the permanent voters' card resides with the commission. And the commission is the only agency, the only commission, and the only organ given the power to design, print, and control the issuance of permanent voters' cards. So if you took the time to go and register, we also expect that you should make out time and come and collect your PVCs. We do not want our PVCs to fall into the wrong hands. And that's part of the challenge we have. There's a case in Enugu State that we are investigating at the moment relating to someone that was found with a catch of permanent voters' cards in a primary school, collecting money for purposes of before giving people their cards. And the viral video we saw claimed that the individual was a staff of the commission. We've conducted preliminary investigation, and we found out that the individual, the lady involved, is not a staff of the commission. Now, what we are trying to deduct and find out now is how she came about the cards she was distributing. And so we have pulled in all our staff from that particular local government to the headquarters in Enugu. For us to find out how she came about those cards. And so we do not want a situation where our cards will fall into the, where permanent voters' cards will be in the wrong hands. And that's why we are not distributing. We are making the cards available for collection.
So that is not an option, their suggestion, the big time suggestion.
It's really not an option. And I saw that they were also suggesting that people do not really need to vote with their permanent voters' card. But that is not the law. This commission is a constitutional and legal body. And the law is to the effect that whoever comes to the polling unit for purposes of voting must come to the polling unit with his or her permanent voter's card. That is the law. And that's the whole intendment of Section 47, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act. And so if you want people to go to the polling units without their permanent voters card, you have to go back to the National Assembly and get the constitutive electoral legal framework amended for that to happen. But as of today, you must appear before the polling units with your permanent voters card.
Well, a card will be whatever it is that the commission determines that it is.
Yes.
Isn't that correct?
Definitely, yes.
So, I mean, if the commission determines that a number which you simply have, I mean, which must be called off or called up on that particular card is sufficient for you to register, wouldn't that be a card? After all, what it's meant to do is identify and make sure that you are the person on that particular, with that particular number. Isn't that what it's meant to do?
No, if you look at the law itself, it makes it clear that the commission shall design, print, and control the issuance of permanent voters' cards. And that the proprietary right in the permanent voters' card, so there's a permanent voters' card.
Does it mention permanent voters' card?
It mentions the voters' card.
Indeed.
So we determine what a voters' card is.
Indeed.
And we have determined the nature and the design of our voters' card and what you have to go to the polling unit on election day with. There's a possibility that with the advances in terms of technology and with the way we are inputting technology into the electoral process, that in future, after the 2023 general election, there's a possibility that you don't need your permanent voters card for purposes of voting in any election. Because as of today, the data of each registered voter in Nigeria now resides in the BVAS. Prior to this particular period, when we were using the smart card reader, the data of each registered voter resides in the permanent voters card. But now the data resides in the BVAS. And so what we do is to just take the last 6 digits of your VIN number in order to call up your data from the BVAS. So after the 2023 general election, We will sit down as a commission and then make a determination whether you can just go to the polling unit with your driver's license or with your international passport and so on and so forth and vote, so long as you can remember your VIN number. And so these are reforms that we can undertake. But as of today, you must have a permanent voter's card to approach the presiding officer.
All right, that sounds interesting. So I guess that's for future elections. But there's still a lot of grounds to cover, but we'll do that when we return in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, we've got a question for you, Mr. Okoye, about PVC collection. This one is coming through from Wanze Anthony. He says, good morning. Please let me tell Mr. Okoye that since 2018, I registered. I'm still unable to collect my PVC as a Sunday, despite my visits to INEC office. Attached is my details. He said he just has to vote. So that's Wanze Anthony E. His voter ID number ends with 194, his River State, Obiakpo local government area, and his polling unit code, all there. What should he do?
Well, what he should do is to just go to our local government office and fill the necessary form and make the necessary report.
That's INEC local government office.
INEC local government office. And then if his PVC has not been printed, then we'll quickly print the PVC and take it back to the local government. But I'm going to collect the details and then run it on our process and see what really is the problem.
Okay, because ordinarily by now it means that he should have gotten his PVC.
Yes, definitely, yes.
All right. Okay, maybe I should just leave. We'll get to take some of these other ones that are just trying to download about PVC.
Yeah.
Asking how is it sure that BBC accredited him on this one. But I know you have a lot of questions. I mean, there are lots of concerns about BVAS, actually, in terms of its operation. So maybe you should just tell us now, because for those who think that having seen the impressions they get about the judgments, the overvoting questions, are there challenges from your perspective about the use of BVAS? What is it that they need to know about questions concerning functionality of the BVAS machine?
What the commission needs to do and what the commission is doing is making sure that the ad hoc staff that have been given the responsibility of operating the BVAS understand the BVAS and understand its functionality and are comfortable with the BVAS. That's why we are going to start our trainings early. We are going to give them longer training. And we are also going to make sure that only those who are trained appear at the level of the polling units on election day, and that there's no swap between those who were trained and those who were not trained. That is one. Secondly, as you pointed out when we started, this commission is going to carry out what we call mock accreditation in all the states of the Federation and in all the senatorial districts. The purpose of this mock accreditation is also to enable the commission test some of the upgrades we carried out in relation to the BVAS and also in relation to its functionality. We have chosen urban polling units, we've chosen semi-urban polling units, and we've chosen rural polling units. So we are going to test the BVAS in all these locations. And also, we are also going to do upload, not with a real result, but we are going to do upload from rural areas, from semi-urban centers, and from urban centers, to be sure that all the major networks we are going to use for result upload are dominant in those areas where we are going to use them. We are going to use MTN, we are going to use Glo, we are going to use Airtel and the other networks, and we deploy them to where they are strong. So that's exactly what we are going to do during this particular period. What is important is that the law has made it clear. Section 47, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act is clear. You must use the BVAS for voter accreditation and authentication. But technology can aid the growth of the electoral process. Technology alone does not conduct any election. human beings do conduct election. And one of the things that the law has also made clear is that when you deploy technology, when you deploy staff, that there's a shared responsibility in terms of packaging a good election. And political parties are part of those institutions that must also pay attention to the electoral process. And that's why the law gives every registered political party, in consultation with their candidates, the power and the leeway to deploy polling agents, or what in popular parlance we call party agents, to all the polling units in Nigeria, to all the collation centers in Nigeria, to serve as their ears and their eyes in all these places. If a political party, and we have 18 political parties in Nigeria as of today, if the 18 of them deploy their polling agents to each polling unit, what that means is that we're going to have 18 polling agents in one polling unit, and nothing can go wrong. So I think that
nothing should go wrong.
Nothing should go wrong. I completely agree. So I think that we should also pay attention to mandate protection, and also to making sure that we pay attention to what happens on election day to make sure that nothing goes wrong.
You've talked about the mock accreditation and the voter, and it's a voter exercise going to happen on Saturday. And I'm wondering, how aware are the people for those polling units where the exercise is going to happen? Are they already sufficiently aware that their polling units have been chosen as part of the polling units to take part in the exercise?
Yes, my answer is yes, because the electoral officers in the various local governments, in consultation with the resident electoral commissioners, chose those polling units. And they have been advised and they have been mandated to make sure that in those polling units, that they go around, meet with the traditional rulers, meet with the religious leaders, meet with youth groups, meet with women's groups, and also use our vans to sensitize people on the fact that their polling unit has been chosen for purposes of mock accreditation.
In Abuja here, let's take
Yes.
an instance.
Yes.
I mean, how are you getting the message across, and what polling units have you picked?
I don't have the polling units offered, but we picked for each, Abuja is one senatorial district, and we are going to do the mock accreditation in four local governments.
4 polling units, you said?
Yes. No, in four local governments. For each state of the federation,
yes,
we are going to do it for each senatorial district, we are going to choose 2 local governments.
Okay.
So there will be 12 places in each state of the federation. In Abuja, there will be 4, based on the 109 senatorial districts. So it is the responsibility of the resident electoral commissioner for the FCT, in consultation with the electoral officers, to determine the polling units that will be used for this purpose.
Have they been determined already?
They have been determined already and published, and on our website.
Oh, okay. So
Yes.
people can go to the website just in case they're not certain, if their polling unit is among it, or if they have not heard the announcement anyway, to check if their polling unit, happens to be among those, that will be partaking in the mock exercise. What sort of, I don't want to say what sort of results are you expecting, but what else will you be testing apart from the upgrade? Are you also going to be testing how long it would take, for instance, for results to come in at the end of the day?
Yes, we are testing it. We are testing everything. One, we want to see how we want to test the sensitivity of the beavers in terms of how it recognizes elderly people, in terms of the configuration of the face for different categories of individuals. We also want to test the sensitivity of the fingerprint identification and also the facial identification. And we also want to test the strength of the various networks in both the urban centers, in the semi-urban centers, and also in the rural areas.
You say something to the effect that training for ad hoc officers are going to start on the 9th of February.
Yes.
This exercise is going to happen this Saturday. What officers are you using to conduct the exercise?
To conduct the
mock exercise.
We are going to use our own staff to conduct the exercise.
Okay.
Yes.
So tell us then, what is the commission thinking about this question of overvoting that seems to be dominant after the Osun Judgment Tribunal?
Well, I'm a senior lawyer, and I will be very, very reluctant to even mention the issue of Osun or even comment in relation to Osun governorship election. But the law is very, very clear. The law envisages a situation that there's a possibility that there can be overvoting in any electoral process. And what the law says is that if there's overvoting in any polling unit, that the presiding officer shall cancel the result of that particular polling unit, or that the result of that particular polling unit shall be cancelled. And how do we measure overvoting against the background of the Electoral Act 2022? We measure overvoting against the background of the number of accredited voters. So if the number of persons that voted in the election are more than the number of accredited voters, what that means is that there has been an overvoting, and the result should be cancelled. And the law says that if the result is cancelled, that the commission will go back and conduct a fresh poll in the affected polling unit. However, if putting all the affected polling units in terms of overvoting will not affect the outcome of the election, that the commission can go ahead and make a declaration. What I mean by this is this. If, for instance, in an election, a governorship candidate secures 100,000 votes, and then the second person secures 90,000 votes, and then when you put all the figures in relation to overvoting, the number of accredited voters where overvoting took place, if you put all of them together and you get, for instance, 12,000 votes, if you add those 12,000 votes to the votes of the person who came second, the person will overtake the one who came first. In that instance, we will go back and conduct fresh poll in all the affected polling units. But if the total number of votes involved is around 9,000, for instance, if you add the 9,000 votes to the votes of the person who came second, the person who came first will still be leading. In which case, we will go ahead and announce the results without going back to go and conduct fresh polls. That, for me, is what the law what the law says, and my own understanding of the law. And so there's a possibility that overvoting can occur. There is nothing that is cast in stone that says that overvoting cannot occur. A rogue presiding officer may connive with a political party and drop one single ballot in the ballot box, and that will create overvoting. And that is why you need the polling agents at the level of the polling units to also see what is going on. And I say this because the law is clear that you thumbprint in secret and you vote in public. That is what is called open secret ballot. And the law is that to the effect that when the presiding officer comes and wants to start the conduct of elections, the presiding officer must show to all present the empty ballot box and must keep the ballot box in the field view of the people until the elections are over. That is the way the law catches it. And so we don't have a choice in terms of how we place the ballot box on election day. So I think that the vigilance of the people is also key to preventing incidents of overvoting.
All right, let me bring my colleagues from Lagos.
Chamberlain, just a quick one, Mr. Okoye. Too many questions, buzzing in my head now. Maybe if you can do this in 60 seconds, because there are a number of other things to raise. How does overvoting happen with beavers? Because the understanding I have is that without the beavers, without accreditation through the beavers, you cannot vote. So how does overvoting happen?
That's exactly what I have tried to explain. When a voter gets to the polling unit, the presiding officer will collect the voters' a PVC, check the last 6 digits of the PVC, cross-check the voters register to make sure that the person is a registered voter, and then the voters thumbprint will be checked against the BVAS. If the thumbprint passes, the person will be given a ballot paper to go and vote. If the fingerprint does not pass, the voters' facials will be checked, and if it passes, the person will be asked to go and vote. The point I'm making is that there's a possibility that a political party or an individual or a candidate or anyone can connive with a presiding officer, and then one single ballot paper will be taken out without the person being accredited and dropped inside the ballot box, and that will create an incident
I guess that also means.
But in terms of the
just a second, because we're running out of time. That perhaps says that INEC needs to firm up some arrangements to ensure that this doesn't happen, because the belief is that BVAS is supposed to checkmate over voting. But then, I mean, you already said you don't want to get into the melee about the judgment, but that judgment seems to have been concluded. An appeal maybe has started or not. The final statement of that tribunal is that INEC should make a declaration of the other candidate. What's the position of INEC on that?
No, the law as of today, the law as I know it, is to the effect that the commission cannot issue any individual with a certificate of return until the person who lost at the level of the election petition tribunal has exhausted a period of 21 days. The law is to the effect that the individual should remain in office for 21 days. If after 21 days the person does not appeal the judgment, then the commission will issue a certificate of return to the person the tribunal says won the election. So 21 days must elapse before the commission can take any action. If the person appeals within a period of 21 days, then the process of the appeal must run its course before any other thing can happen.
Mr. Okoye, if BVAS then is not fail-safe, if it can be compromised at the level of voting by INEC officials, then it then means that the fear expressed in some quarters that the RATEX too can be compromised by politicians is also very valid. I wonder if INEC is getting wind of that information. And if that is true, if that fear is also valid, what is INEC doing to prevent that in the coming elections?
Well, some of these fears are not valid. People are just throwing in issues into the fray to make sure that we disclose to them the complete and entire functionality of the BVAS. There are some politicians who want us to open the brain of the BVAS so that they can see inside the BVAS to see how it functions, and for them to also see whether there's a possibility for them to clone it or manipulate it. And the commission will not do that. The electoral process, democracy can only be protected by a vigilant people. And the law has given the political parties the leeway, the power, and the right to deploy their polling agents to all the polling units in Nigeria and to all the collation centers for them to see what goes on, to be sure that nobody puts in any foreign material into the ballot box on election day that will cause overvoting. Our BVAS is a very robust gadget, a very robust instrument, and we have faith in it, and we believe that it is the ultimate arbiter in terms of those who want to manipulate the process. So I think that Nigerians should have faith in the BVAS, and the BVAS is robust, and the BVAS will be the game changer in the 2023 general election. Hold
on, Mr. Okoye. If the RATEX are the interface between when the results are uploaded on IREV portal before people can view it, how are these officials being protected, or so to speak, guarded from politicians such that they will not have access to them, and as a result, the results will not be compromised before they are uploaded?
No, the RATEX, we are going to deploy RATEX to all the registration areas so that if there's a challenge in any polling unit, they can intervene and intervene decisively and quickly. to deal with whatever challenge we have. The results from our polling units will be uploaded to the INEC result viewing portal in real time. The polling agents will be there when these things are going on. What the RATEX will do is to assist those who have challenges in terms of result upload. Not that they are the ones who are going to be uploading the results. They will also assist the collation officers during the collation process. Section 64, subsection 6 of the Electoral Act has also given all the collation officers the standard and what to do when there is a challenge in relation to results that have been uploaded and also the results that are brought to the collation center by the presiding officers. So I think that in all these stages, we have completely and comprehensively explained to Nigerians how these things will interface. So the issue of manipulation does not even arise in relation to what we are doing.
All right, I've got this one from Bako Maika. He says he did the transfer to his village. His details are on INEC portal showing his village. He traveled down to get his voter card and couldn't get it because INEC didn't print the card. And then he attached his details. What should he do?
You see, one thing I have observed is that unless you press and push, some of our people do not tell you the whole truth and nothing but the truth. There are some people who, rather than carry out plain transfer, they went and registered afresh. But if somebody carried that transfer and who has never registered before, and we have not printed the person's card, if the person makes the necessary report, we will print the card.
Okay,
yes.
we see quite a number of other exchanges. This one is from Victor Asa, who says, how can private citizens have access to the INEC result viewing portal, that's IREV? And I'm wondering, will IREV be open on the mock accreditation day?
I need to clarify whether we are going to open IREV on mock accreditation day. But there's no result to be uploaded during the mock. Well, we may just upload a piece of paper during the mock accreditation to see how it performs. But people are not voting during the mock. We want to see the performance of the beavers. At the end of the entire exercise, we may just use a piece of paper or any result sheet to upload to see to the performance of the IREV in real time from different parts of the country. But as the election progresses, if you go to INECresults.com, you will have access.
INECresults.com.
INECresult.org. Yes.
Okay. INECresult.org
yes.
is how to get into
the results that we uploaded before for other elections are already there.
Okay.
So on election day, any individual that has access to a smartphone, that have access to a computer, and that registers on the portal, we have access to view all the results in real time as they come in.
Okay, Mr. Precious Agbeso wants to know, you know, what can happen or what will happen for categories of people who might be disenfranchised as a result of their call to duty. For instance, security operatives, media, etc.
It's a very, very huge challenge. And the Commission is also looking at reforms at that particular direction. I know that in some countries, people who are on essential duty, journalists, people who work in the power sector, those in the military, in the police, and so on, and even ad hoc staff that will be engaged by the Commission, do what we call early voting. But we don't have early voting in the electoral process. It is one of the reforms that the Commission wants to propose after the 2023 general election. But for this period, it's very unfortunate that they will not be in a position to vote.
Okay, we do have many more questions. There are always more questions when it comes to this, so it's expected. But I think we'll find a way to get some of these answers and then maybe read them all out to you, because we're really out of time right now. But it's something we'll work with the Commission and see how we can get your questions and challenges addressed as we progress. But thank you for coming on, Mr. Festus.
I really appreciate this opportunity.
All right.